Hello everybody and welcome back to another GameMaker Studio 2 tutorial. Tutorial? No, video. Just a video. Sort of. Kinda like a tutorial. Today, I'm proud to announce that I finally figured out how to make my own GUI elements, if that makes any sense. GameMaker is, for myself at least, notoriously known for its horrible support of UI. So if you go with something like Godot, that engine actually has some really nice UI editors and stuff like that. It's really cool and makes putting the UI of a game much more faster than GameMaker does. Because GameMaker really doesn't have anything. All you can do in GameMaker is just draw to the GUI layer, and that's it. Which is kind of nice for simple things like a little health meter that's, always there. So if you don't know what the GUI layer, it's basically the layer that goes over the window, kind of like this. So you see how this object here is, it stays here into the position of the window. Yeah, that's basically what it is. Now, most people, when they create their own UI, they're either making an object or they make a bunch of objects, so button objects, all that stuff, and it's still an instance thing. Other people, fine. I haven't seen too many ways. I don't really see a lot of GameMaker games with a proper UI or proper interactive UI, other than basic using your keyboards to change which item you want to use, like in Suits 2, for example. That's how we do it. Undertale's another example that does that too. But yeah, no, I haven't seen any game that actually does what I have created here. And I'm going to assume anybody else who has kind of like a menu or something with the clickables and stuff, it's probably just objects. So it's probably just an object, because you don't really need to make a system like this for a main menu if you could just do it in objects and nobody will notice, which is fine. But this is something for the game itself. When you're in the game, I want to have a menu that I can do things in without having to, make it too complicated. So, enough of my rambling. Yes, this is what I created today. So, I had to come up with this design of how I wanted to build a UI. So we think about the UI with a window, and then we have the buttons and all the other elements. For today, I've only made and refined the window itself and the buttons. There's just other things too, like text boxes, drop-down menus, and what do you call it? Image containers, just sprites, just display a sprite, and just other stuff. Input fields too, so you could put text and stuff and do whatever. That is sort of easier to do. Sort of. I say sort of. But some of the stuff is easier, some of the stuff is going to take a little bit more time, but I needed the foundations, which is this. So, what do we have here? Well, we have a GUI element. This is what I call the container. Is the window is what's going to hold every UI element, and every UI element needs a container. Why? Because it needs to know the position of that container. Because say if you wanted to move this, I don't like this where this is sitting here, I want to put it over here. Well, in the code, you go back and you can change the position, and you don't have to worry about the position of these buttons. They will follow along. All you have to do is tell the button where the buttons are relative to this position. So if you have a 200 by 200 window, and you want to put this in the halfway point, you just put 100, 100, and boom, it'll be halfway there. It'll be in the middle of the... Well, the corner would be in the middle, because that's how GameMaker works, but you figure out the map. It's not that hard. Yeah, so now I'm going to show you the functionality, and when I jump into the code, you're going to see how simple all this stuff is. I made it as simple as I could, but yet powerful. So I have two buttons here, play and stop. One's going to play the track, and the other one's going to stop the track. Just very simple stuff, just needed for testing. So let's play it. and you can stop. It's pretty cool. I think it's really cool. It's nifty. Now, I do plan on actually releasing this probably on the GameMaker marketplace for maybe like $2 or something. I don't know. I have to think about that. This is a really simple UI development system I'm going to be working on here in the next few days, because I'm going to be using this in the MapleStory clone that you're looking at right now as well, and in future games too. And because of that, I had to think about how I wanted to design this. I want to make this really easy to move around, and I'll show you that later. So the next thing I want to show too is these buttons. So the buttons were like the hardest thing to do, but it wasn't that hard anymore. I put a lot of thought into these. So how do I get the mouse position? How do I get this thing to know when it hits? Well, I just, I looked in the documentations for like how to get the mouse's position in the window. You can see right here that these two values here are where the mouse currently is, and you'll see if I go up here, it'd be the resolution of this window. Well, almost, because I can't reach that pixel perfectly. And so I just have some code to check where your mouse is and if it's within these parameters of the buttons and stuff. So buttons, they have 3 states. They have a normal state, they have a hover state, and then they have a click state, which you can see just turns red real quick. And I'm going to figure out how to like make probably more scripts so that you can do something like, if you hover over it, check to see if you're just hovering, check the state of that button. Is it hovering? Yes, no. It's going to be very simple stuff, but not really that important. So this also has a function check if you click this button. So it does that. But I also made another one where you can hold down. So you see now this is being held down, and I can, what? I can drag this thing around. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. Oh yeah. Let me show you. So yeah, you can drag this around. It'll still work. That's actually a major problem with like some of these things. Like, it won't know where it is, but with the way I designed it, it's gonna always work no matter where you're at, and no matter what resolution. So you might have just noticed that this thing might have moved a bit. It looks a little smaller. Well, and you can see right here that the resolution changed to almost 1080p. It's just in the window. So it took me a while to do this, because this is like one of the major problems GameMaker's like getting the UI to work right in all resolutions. So you see it just gets back to its normal size, and you can shrink the window down, and it'll get bigger. But the idea is that we're not gonna have to make it any smaller. This is like kind of 720 is like the resolution I usually work in for my games. And yeah, so now that I've showed you this really cool UI system, I'm going to show you how we're going to build it. So this is the code here for the inventory UI object. Now, over here on the scripts, these are all the things you need to make this UI. That's how simple it is. Usually, from what I've seen, I went on the marketplace, I looked at the other people's UI systems. They have multiple objects for buttons and drop down, all this stuff, like a lot. And I'm like, that's what I want to avoid. I don't want to do that. That just seems kind of inefficient. And, just how about we make something a bit more creative, or just something that I can just, boom, there we go. So let's start. This is my create event for the UI object. And I'm going to start by creating a container. So we have a variable called container, and it's going to create a container with these values. So we've got the X, the Y, the width, the height. The sprite, it's set to -1 for now because I don't have a sprite to use. So it's just going to use a rectangle that's going to be within these parameters. And the color of that rectangle is gray. We're going to set it to gray. Next we have test button and test button 2 and drag button. So basically it's all the same. We just create a button, we set the X, the Y, the width, the height, the sprite, the alpha, the container, which is the parent. Basically it's just this container, we're going to put that there. And then the text, this is optional. I highly recommend this for just using for like prototyping. I wouldn't really use the text in final products, but this is just here for like, so you know what you're doing. Like, you know, if you're gonna put text, I would rather put it on the sprite itself, but you know, it depends who you are. Then we've got, you know, another create button for the stop, drag button, same thing. There's nothing different about the drag button. It's still a button. And then we just got some other variables. We're going to go now into the draw GUI event, because this is where how we can actually see this UI. We have draw container, very simple, container, put a container. Go back to the draw buttons. Actually, you know what? I'm going to move this here with all that, just so it could be like a nice little block of stuff, UI stuff. So draw container, test button 2, and drag button. So this is just going to draw the buttons on the screen and whatnot, as you were able to see from the beginning. Then we have the step event, which is where we're going to do all of our updates. And we have check UI button press, and it's going to take the button that you want to check that it's being pressed, so test button, which is the play button, and then we're going to set which mouse constant we want it. So we're going to say the left mouse button, and then it's going to do its function. And same thing with all these. Then the being held, it's got all this math here for the, you know, dragging and stuff, and we use a different function. Now, the way I was thinking about doing this, this is a thing when you're designing systems, is you need to have, I realize, and I've seen like examples too of like, you know, other like people's stuff I've worked with, they kind of have like a general settings kind of thing, so I decided to make that myself too. So for now, this is just all I have. So we have your text box font, which, you know, text box is not in this yet, so, but this is basically where you can control the different fonts for your UI stuff. So text input, button text can be different, because sometimes you might want to use the same font but different font sizes, and the best way of doing that is by using different font sizes, making the font and then setting the size. Max characters on the text for the text input when I have it in, and then the width and height of the working resolution. So for me it's 720p, so 1280 by 720. So if you're working 1080, then you can just change that and yada yada. Whatever resolution you're working on, baseline, that's what you're gonna want to use that. You're gonna want to set that there. So you set all that, and then it'll fix all the stuff, which I'll give you guys a little peek as to how this works. Ooh, why did it open in the debugger? Just a little peek. So here's the code real quick. It's just a data map. It's just a data map. Has data. The way I kind of design it, it makes it kind of like object-oriented programming, sort of. It's like trying to emulate. I'm trying to emulate that in GameMaker, so very smart. Very, very smart. So yeah, let's go ahead and make one real quick. A new object. We're gonna call this Yeet UI, and then we're gonna, oops, not destroy. I don't want that. I'm gonna create, and we're going to make a just UI container, or like maybe let's call it main body. going to be create container, and then we're going to just make the X and Y like 500, maybe 64, width, height, and just give it like 500 width. No, that's way too big. It's 200 width, 100 height, -1 for the sprite, alpha. I just want to do 1. Actually, let's do 0.5. No, actually 0.6. And then color, we're gonna do C. What color? Let's do blue. We're not using blue for anything. Yeah. So now we have that container. So let's go in our room and let's put that UI, and then let's run that. Oh, I forgot to draw. Draw UI, draw container, and then we're gonna say main body. Then boom. There we go. However, it's still being drawn gray. Let me see something. Well, let's keep it like that. I'll fix that later. It's probably some old stuff, something I didn't clean up after. So then let's create a button. So let's just call it button, or like main button. Let's create button. We're gonna do let's just put it 64 by 65, 25, and no, yeah, 25, and we'll make it like 32. No, let's make it 64 by 32, and then we'll just have no sprite, 1 container being main body, and text, we'll just say yeet. Go into draw UI, draw button, and then we're gonna do that. Oh, I'm sorry. Draw UI button, and then we do main button. Boom. Run that, and we got this button. Doesn't do anything. So let's have a step in it. That's a bit weird, it's not doing anything. Well, so it's not doing anything because we don't have a check. UI button press button main button. Mouse button MB left. And then we'll just say audio. Play sound. Show a town. 10, 1. So you guys can do whatever you want for that part. I'm just gonna make it play the same sound. So now with that function here, it's gonna now be able to be usable. As you see, it works. Then we can stop music. Very simple, easy to implement to your own games. I really hope to have this done fully soon and put it up on the marketplace, and once I do, I'll put a video on that. It just helps guys support me doing this kind of stuff. So if you really like this video,
leave a like, subscribe, comment below, and join our Discord. We also have a Patreon if you want to throw money at that too. As always, guys, take care.